In the world of cloud computing, things have changed. Your identity, that's the new perimeter. So today, we're going to build a digital fortress around it. I'll walk you through the absolute must-have tools in Microsoft Azure to lock down your most critical assets. Let's get right into it.
Let's just kick things off with a number that is, well, it's pretty mind-blowing. According to Microsoft, there is one single security control that can block over 99.9% of attacks trying to compromise your accounts. That tool is multi-factor authentication, or MFA. Its effectiveness is, well, it's basically undeniable.
But, and this is a big but, there's a huge disconnect here. You'd think something that effective would be everywhere, right? Wrong. Microsoft's research shows a pretty shocking reality. Only about half of enterprise users actually have MFA turned on. That means for 50% of accounts, the digital front door is just wide open.
And while those doors are unlocked, the threat is just relentless. Attackers are hammering away with something like 921 password attacks every single second. Think about that. And this constant barrage is aimed right at that new security perimeter we talked about, your user identities. That's the primary target today. So, if identity is the new front gate, how do we actually secure it? Well, in Azure, the answer is to create an intelligent gatekeeper, a system that makes smart, automated decisions to protect that fortress of yours. Let's take a look at the core of that system.
At the very heart of this is Microsoft Entra ID. You might know it by its old name, Azure AD. This thing is the central control plane for every single identity in your organization. We're talking people, services, devices, the whole shebang. It is the absolute foundation of our fortress.
This diagram does a fantastic job of cutting through all the jargon. At its core, Identity and Access Management, or IAM, is really just about answering three basic questions. First, who is trying to get in? That's your identity. Second, how do they prove they are who they say they are? That's authentication. That's where MFA comes in. And finally, what are they allowed to do once they're inside? That's authorization. If you can nail these three questions, you are well on your way to a secure environment.
Okay, so our gatekeeper is in place. Now it's time to build the walls of our fortress. And in Azure, we build these walls using something called Conditional Access. Just think of it as the intelligent rulebook that governs every single decision about who gets in.
So here's how it works. It looks at all these different signals for every single login attempt. Who is this user? Where are they logging in from? What kind of device are they using? And based on all those signals, it enforces the rules you've set. It can grant access, block it completely, or maybe just ask for a bit more proof, like an MFA prompt. This is what makes your security adaptive and intelligent, not just a static wall.
We're going to start by locking the front door. The first, most critical policy, and I can't stress this enough, is to require MFA for all users, no exceptions. The second is to block legacy authentication protocols. These old, outdated methods are super easy for attackers to exploit with common attacks like password spraying and credential stuffing. Blocking legacy auth just slams the door shut on those techniques.
Okay, next up, you need to respond to threats automatically in real time. Azure's identity protection can spot when a user's behavior seems off over time, and it can also catch suspicious one-off logins, like an impossible travel scenario. These policies can just automatically block access until that risk is checked out and cleared. It's like an automated security guard.
And this really drives home a critical point. Modern security is not just about who you are, it's also about the context. With conditional access, you can create rules based on how healthy a device is, where the user is, and even what app they're trying to use. It creates this amazing multi-layer defense for every single access request.
All right, the main walls of our fortress are up. They're strong. But every fortress has its crown jewels, right? The most valuable stuff that needs the highest level of protection. For us, that's our privileged administrator accounts. Let's talk about how we secure the keys to the kingdom.
And the danger of leaving these powerful accounts unprotected is, well, it's very real. Just look at this slide. Excessive privileges were a factor in 43% of successful attacks. When an attacker gets their hands on an account with permanent, always-on admin rights, the damage they can do is just catastrophic.
So what's the solution? This is where Azure's Privileged Identity Management, or PIM, comes into play. It's a system built specifically to manage your most powerful accounts by getting rid of those dangerous permanent privileges.
PIM introduces this incredibly powerful idea called just-in-time access. And it's a total game changer. It flips the whole model. Instead of having admin rights 24/7, users are just eligible for them. When they actually need to do something important, they have to formally request that access for a limited time, and it often needs approval. And when that time is up, poof, their superuser access just vanishes.
So we've talked about conditional access, MFA, privileged identity management. But these aren't just a random collection of tools. They're the building blocks of a much bigger security strategy. So let's zoom out and look at the guiding philosophy that holds this entire fortress together, the zero trust mindset.
The core principle of zero trust is so simple, but it is incredibly powerful. It completely flips the old security model on its head. It basically says, assume a breach is always possible, and you can no longer trust a request just because it's coming from inside your network. Every single request has to be verified, every time.
And this philosophy really stands on three pillars that we've already seen in action. First, verify explicitly. Think of it as checking an ID at every single door, not just the front gate. Second, use least privileged access. Give people only the keys they absolutely need for only as long as they need them. And third, assume breach. You operate as if an intruder is already inside, which forces you to limit their ability to move around and do any real damage.
This timeline here does a great job of showing the evolution. Organizations start out in that traditional world, with a hard outer shell but a soft, chewy, trusting center. They then progress toward this optimal state where security is all about identity, it's automated, and it's dynamic. This whole journey is about replacing that old-school implicit trust with constant, explicit verification. And that really brings us to our final thought. The tools to build a powerful, intelligent, secure digital fortress, they're all right there. They're available. So the only question left is, are you using them? Is your gatekeeper awake?